Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. Today we're going to be talking about an issue that is a little bit more serious than my daily ongoings, and that is the recent comments made by Kuwaiti blogger Sondos AlQattans regarding domestic workers. Now, for the longest time, or as far as I know, it has been a law in Dubai and most of the GCC countries. I am not aware of Saudi Arabia, but it is a law and a rule of thumb that your employer is no longer allowed to keep your passport. Now, only recently did that law come into application for domestic workers. Sondos AlQattan took to her Snapchat to express her thoughts on it.
شلون يكون عندك خادم بالبيت ويكون جوازه عنده؟ وين كان؟ قلت جوازها وراحت سافرت شلون؟ منين عوضني؟ ولا لا الشيء الأدوي الأمر إن كل أسبوع لها يوم أوف كل أسبوع. شلون يكون عندك خادم بالبيت ويكون جوازه عنده؟ وين كان؟ قلت جوازها وراحت سافرت شلون؟ منين عوضني؟ ولا لا الشيء الأدوي الأمر إن كل
She expressed these thoughts to her millions of followers on her Snapchat and quickly caused, a social media outcry and outrage, and rightly so, because what she basically spoke about and the way in which she spoke about it was supporting or encouraging the notion that some people are less than, and in turn encouraging the notion that it is okay to treat somebody like they are your property. Now, there are still a lot of people in the GCC countries that do not abide by the laws that are set down by the government in terms of allowing your domestic workers to keep their passports. In fact, there are a lot of smaller companies that still try to keep their employees' passports if you are not aware of the law. So before we move further with this discussion, I urge all of you to brush up on your labor laws, because it never hurts to be knowledgeable on specific issues and the laws of certain countries, especially if you're planning on moving to a new country. Now, I just received a message from one of my friends while I was filming this video talking about how MAC Cosmetics has just dropped Sondos, as they do not agree with the message that she was spreading through her original video and her comment on domestic workers. Max Factor has dropped her as well. Shiseido has dropped her as well. And I am over the moon, because I think people have enough going on in their lives, and domestic workers especially have enough going on in their lives without you taking to social media to talk about how you're outraged about laws that protect them. I do not understand as a human being, nor have I ever understood what it is like to think that somebody is not an equal. Whether you are a CEO, the president of a company, or the richest person on the planet, the day you start to think that you are better than people in the grand scheme of things is when you've lost the plot of life. You might want different things, you might have different goals, and that makes you a different person. That does not make you better than anyone. And I have a severe problem when people of power take to social media to talk about their outrage about how domestic workers, who are pretty much paid barely anything, should be deprived of laws that are constructed to protect them. And the whole reason we're even having this discussion is because the body of a Filipino housemaid was found in a freezer, and that is when the Filipino president asked all the domestic workers to come back to the Philippines, saying they don't need to go through this. And that is when these laws have been set into place, because there's a ginormous majority of domestic workers, especially from the Philippines, but other countries as well, including my own country, Sri Lanka, who are working in Kuwait and other GCC countries, and their laws need to be protected as well. So I am over the moon that a president would protect his people in such a manner. So, I think that's amazing, and I think that a lot of countries should follow that example. Now, Max Factor Arabia has posted this comment on their Instagram saying they were shocked by the comments made by influencer Sondos AlQattans regarding the new labor law in Kuwait, and Sondos' comments are personal and do not represent neither the values nor the principles that Max Factor Arabia stands for. Now, I happen to comment on this particular Instagram post because, as you guys know, I like putting my 2 cents in, and I want you guys to just gauge the reaction from some of the people on this page. So, my comment, bear with me, it's a bit long. That's what she said, but you guys gotta listen to this. I said, it's so obvious all these fake accounts supporting Sondos are some form of damage control from her team. I do not think any real makeup lover would claim she is the reason Max Factor got famous because, to be honest, I haven't heard of her until her ignorant comment made the news. I think it is phenomenal when brands showcase their ethical values and choose to cut ties with people whose version of reality is so distorted by money and power they are blinded to the notion of humanity. What this person endorses is modern slavery, and while she very well may be speaking for her associated friends as well, they represent a very ignorant demographic that shouldn't even be considered as part of the evolving GCC community. So goodbye to this sad human being, and thank you Max Factor Arabia for refusing to endorse her behavior. That is my comment, that is my stance on it, and since then, that comment has received 60 responses and engagements between people. Some people saying they don't know her and much respect to Max Factor Arabia, some people commenting on my comment, and then we have her demographic of people or her damage control team that popped in to say, I'm not a fake account and I'm not a Sondos follower, but I support what she said because she was talking about her country's new rules which you know nothing about, and about Max Factor. I'm a makeup lover and I don't use it because it's cheap quality. Don't praise it just because you use it. And then the same person commented back saying, Arab people know her, honey, because she's famous. Just a little tip, honey, brush up on your English if you're trying to come for me. So I responded, of course, with another long message because to me it's vital to get an important message across. And I said, lol, I've lived in Dubai for over 17 years and still do. I'm very aware of how the lack of rules have resulted in the constant abuse of domestic workers in nearly all of the GCC countries. I have witnessed this systematic abuse firsthand. You speak for a very ignorant demographic of people who equate the worth of someone's life in money. There's a word for that and it's called slavery. Heard of it? It stems from the systematic abuse that all people of color have faced since the beginning of time. And here you are supporting another person of color who is choosing to do the same to someone else. Every maid is entitled to a weekend and to have his or her passport. If they run away and the only issue is money, that is a financial issue that the country needs to tackle. But you coming out on social media supporting a woman who seems to be proud of placing herself above someone else is not only shameful to all Arabic people, but shameful as a human being. Also, don't worry about Max Factor Arabia. I'm sure they'll survive without, what's her name? Sondos? Okay. And then this person continues to comment saying, it seems that you have a problem with the GCC countries and you are ignorant of what's going on in our houses. You don't have the right to judge us. And be sure I don't care about Max Factor because I don't buy this kind of cheap quality. Finally, if you consider yourself human, ask them to stop testing on animals. And then the same person commented back saying, writing an article doesn't prove that your words is right. Learn to summarize in writing so the other part do not get bored. Okay. And I responded with, nothing I say could insult your intelligence far greater than you've already done. Because, let's face it, that's the truth. And then this conversation continues, going on about, this person is fully defending her. And there are quite a few other accounts supporting her saying, we will not buy Max Factor Arabia. She made you guys famous. We're not buying your products. How dare you post about this lovely, sweet person. And then somebody else wrote, losers talk, haha. We are a real follower. We don't listen to others without knowing the truth behind his or her talk. And this is none of your business or anyone's business. We have a democratic, we can't speak loud. We can say what everyone We want to say without being afraid. End of story. You guys have zero ethics with no manners. Just search and try to figure out what's going on and what she really meant. Don't be like an animal following others without using your brain. Okay. And I'm going to just, summarize, take her advice, and summarize what I wrote in another long response. And I said, please don't use Kuwait as an excuse for your inhumane opinions. I'm aware that human rights are lacking in the GCC, but that doesn't mean you get to take advantage of people to your benefit. And then stupid people, blah, 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 attacking her because she's living a better life than you. Do you think she would care? Max Factor is cheap. This continues constantly, but I do want to read one comment in particular that really irked me because it had nothing to do with what we're talking about. Oh, here it is. It is by somebody called Glowing Saudi. Now, I will leave a screenshot in this video for you guys. Take a look. Welcome back. Now, let me read this out for you. First, it's not your business, so don't be such a curious person. She's talking about somebody else who commented. Then she goes on to say, second, I recommend you to go and understand what she's trying to say regarding than being like a stupid, and yeah, Google can help you if you want. Just search about the crimes that the housekeeper are doing in the GCC. Last thing, just to your information, and I know that's going to kill you, all employees who's working in GCC, they can't have their passports with them for the first day when they sign the contract. They leave it with HR department. Oh yeah, yes, which is true, and then we get it back. Oh yeah, I remember one more thing. All of us in Saudi, Kuwait, Bahrain, and UAE, or let's say most of Arabs, we support her and we agreed about what did she say because we know what she meant exactly. So we don't give a shit about your opinions or your bad comments, as simple as that. We are Muslims. We know how to deal with others in a very kind way because our God, Allah, and our Prophet Muhammad, they taught us this in the Quran and the Sunnah, so we don't follow you or what others think. And if you saying I'm like her, trust me, I will feel proud of this. I have a serious issue when people use religion to back up their ignorant behavior. Please leave Islam out of this. Islam has nothing to do with this. The religion has nothing to do with this. You are using your religion. This one person is using her religion to support the notion of modern slavery. This has nothing to do with you being Arab. This has nothing to do with you being Muslim. So please do not bring that into the equation. If you are talking about the fact that you are uneducated and inhumane and do not have the mental capacity to grasp that everybody is an equal, including your domestic worker, including the women and men who clean your toilets and feed your children, if you do not have the mental capacity to grasp that, I truly, truly feel sorry for you. My heart goes out to you. You are lacking what somebody who is down in the gutter in every sense has. You are lacking a heart and you are lacking humanity. This is the problem. This is the problem that I have. People using this religion to just say whatever they want. I know so many great Muslim people, and I know people who practice the religion beautifully and live in peace and are so humble and so welcoming and so loving and practice their religion in the best way possible. But people like you are atrocious. And I have to say, guys, there are so many people that commented saying we are not with her. This has nothing to do with being Muslim. Please, leave religion out of this. We do not stand with you. The rest of the Arabs do not stand with you. In fact, there are quite a few big Arab YouTubers that have spoken out about this, talking about how they are horrified that somebody would make such comments on social media. So I'm sorry, but this is not an Arab issue. This is not an Islamic issue. This is a personal choice that this influencer has made when she chose to speak out about, her stance on domestic workers. And it is a mentality that a lot of the upper class, I'm not going to say a lot, sorry, I rephrase that, there are certain demographic of the upper class have here, because most of the domestic workers are underpaid, can barely speak English, some of them can't even read, and all of them are looked at as less than. Some of them are kicked, some of them are, abused, not some of them, a majority of them. I've witnessed and heard stories firsthand of this abuse, and the reason that this rule has been made is to stop that abuse. Now, also in Sondo's video was her outrage about how domestic help should have a 1 day weekend because she doesn't know what they're gonna do. And I've spoken at length with a lot of people about this, and the fear is that the domestic worker is going to go out there and get frisky and get pregnant, and then it's going to be an issue for the family because the maid's going to want to return back to her country. Then that becomes an issue of finance. If your maid gets pregnant and she wants to leave a job and she no longer wants to have an income, then the country needs to refund that money to you. The maid needs to be able to leave, and you need to be able to get a new maid. Because you know what? Although it causes you a minor inconvenience, and while I do understand that if you have younger kids, you need a maid, and it's a huge inconvenience once you go through the process of interviewing and finding someone, and they get pregnant, they want to leave. It's an inconvenience, but the reality is, you don't own that person. You cannot own people. That is the definition of slavery. Taking somebody's passport and keeping it in your possession is like holding a voodoo doll in front of someone, of their of their likeness. You cannot and should not be allowed to keep anybody's passport. That is not your right. That is not. But what shocks me is that there are so many people here saying that is their right. The maids live within their houses, and that is their responsibility, what she does. It just blows my mind how uneducated people follow these influencers blindly, just blindly. And what shocks me even more, or doesn't shock me, which is sadder still, is that there's a demographic of people that think this way, that think that domestic help is less than, that think that they don't deserve the rights, that think that they don't have to have the passports. Now, I do know, because I've grown up with we've had a few maids growing up, and I do know that sometimes they disappear, they run away, they get boyfriends, they get pregnant, that happens. But the reality is, then the country should refund you if money is the only issue. But I can only speak for my part and my family and say that we call our maids by their first names. We, most of the time, whenever we're having dinner or tea or breakfast or lunch or whatever it is, our domestic workers, now I can't name my domestic workers, but they are allowed everything that my family has. If I'm making a cup of tea, I make a cup of tea for her. If I'm making food, I make it for them. It doesn't work any other way for us. And yes, there have been still people who have stolen from us and just created all kinds of issues. But I have never, nor has my family ever mistreated a single domestic worker. Why? Because they're a human. They're doing this job to feed their families back home. They're not doing this job because they are less than. They're not doing this job because they are terrible people. They're doing this because their life has worked out in such a way where they've had no other alternative. And I'm talking about, domestic workers in the GCC, because that is the situation here. So to end this video, I implore you guys to have these conversations and engage in these discussions. And when you see something on social media, I urge you to talk about it and to share it and to tweet about it if it's something you're passionate about, because it can truly make a difference. If everybody did not have such a violent reaction to this woman's poison, all these major companies would have kept her on and thought, okay, it doesn't really matter. But everyone dropped her because this mentality is wrong. And if we do anything here, it's not to start a witch hunt against a particular person, but it is to understand that everybody is equal. I've said this in my other vlogs before, but with everything that's going on in the world, why would you want to go around with this kind of poisonous mentality? I do not understand it. People that I have in my life do not understand it, and I do not condone that kind of behavior, nor do any of my Arabic friends, nor do any of my Arabic friends who are Muslim. So I take personal offense as somebody who is spiritual, somebody who is Buddhist and Christian. I take personal offense when somebody uses religion to back up their vile approach to other human beings. So I urge all of you guys to join these conversations, join these topics, comment on social media posts, because your opinion can make all the difference, and your opinion is what helps companies determine who they want to work with and who they want to endorse. And I don't think somebody like Sondos AlQattans deserves a single cent of anybody's dime. Thank you guys for watching. Make sure you subscribe to my channel, and I will talk to you guys soon.